Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Christmas has come and gone for most of America, but for St. Louis Cardinals fans, the gift-giving season is just getting started. And trust me, folks, what President of Baseball Operations Chaim Bloom has cooking up in the front office might just be the biggest present Cardinals Nation has received in years. Buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal is going to change everything you thought you knew about the 2026 Cardinals. Let me paint you a picture. It's a cold December morning in St. Louis, the kind where your breath hangs in the air like ghosts of baseball seasons past. While most teams are sitting on their hands, content to let the offseason drift by like snow falling on an empty Busch Stadium, the Cardinals front office is buzzing with activity. Chaim Bloom, the mastermind who learned his trade in Boston, is working the phones. He's not sleeping. He's not resting on his laurels. He's hunting. And what he's hunting for might surprise you. Right before Christmas, when most executives were heading home to trim trees and sip eggnog, Bloom dropped an absolute bombshell that sent shockwaves through the baseball world. The Cardinals, he announced, are aggressively pursuing right-handed power, ideally for the outfield. Now, I know what you're thinking. Big deal, right? Every team wants power. But here's where this story gets juicy, my friends. This isn't just about adding a bat. This is about fundamentally reshaping the identity of a Cardinals team that has lost its way. Let me break down just how desperate the situation has become in St. Louis, because the numbers don't lie, and they paint a picture uglier than a rain-soaked rally towel. Last season, the Cardinals' home run leader hit exactly 20 dingers. That's it. 20 home runs led the entire team. And here's the kicker that'll make your jaw drop faster than a Yadier Molina throw to second base. That guy isn't even on the team anymore. Wilson Contreras, your 2024 home run champion, just got shipped off to Boston faster than you can say fire sale. The Cardinals literally traded away their only legitimate power threat. But wait, it gets worse, so much worse. Take a walk through the Cardinals roster, and what do you see? Lefties. Lefties everywhere. Nolan Gorman, left-handed bat. J.J. Weatherholt, the Golden Boy prospect everyone's drooling over. Lefty. Lars Nootbaar, assuming he's even on the roster next year. Another lefty. Victor Scott, the speedster. You guessed it, left-handed. The list goes on like a broken record that only plays one song. Dive deeper into the organization, and the left-handed epidemic continues. Jimmy Crooks, the backup catcher. Lefty. Brian Rivas, the AAA second baseman waiting in the wings. Left-handed bat. Chase Davis, the top third base prospect, swing from the left side. Cesar Prieto, who Cardinals fans saw flash across their screens last September, lefty. Nathan Church, the outfield depth piece, you already know the answer. It's lefties all the way down, folks, like some kind of baseball version of Inception. Here's why this matters more than you might think, and this is where Bloom's genius strategy starts to reveal itself. When you face an opposing bullpen in a tight game, they're going to play matchups like they're playing chess against a 5-year-old. They've got the advantage, they've got the pieces, and most importantly, they've got the scouting reports. If the Cardinals trot out their parade of left-handed hitters, opposing managers just grin and dial up their nasty left-handed relievers. Game over. Thank you for playing. Better luck next time. Bullpens in today's game are stacked with specialized weapons designed for exactly these situations. That eighth inning lefty specialist who comes in to face the heart of your order, he's probably throwing 95 with a slider that breaks like it fell off a table. He's probably one of the 3 or 4 best pitchers on the entire staff. And if you're sending up a bunch of left-handed batters to face him, you better hope they can hit one out of the park, because that's about your only chance. You're not going to string together hits against elite stuff when they've got the platoon advantage. Now here's where the story takes an interesting turn, and I've got to give a shout out to keep things honest. There's one Cardinal who absolutely destroys left-handed pitching, and I mean destroys it like Godzilla through Tokyo. His name is Ivan Herrera, and yes, I had to correct myself because I kept calling him Ivan like I was reading a teleprompter written by someone who'd never heard Spanish pronunciation before. Ivan, not Ivan. The man deserves respect, especially when you see his numbers. Get this. Ivan Herrera posted a 660 OPS against left-handed pitching last season. Let me say that again for the people in the back. 660 slug. That's not just good. That's borderline absurd. That's video game numbers. That's the kind of split that makes you wonder if he's got some secret vendetta against southpaws. If he keeps that up, pitchers are going to start intentionally walking him the moment a lefty takes the mound. He's far and away the best hitter on the Cardinals roster when facing left-handed pitching, and it's not even remotely close. But here's the problem. You can't build an entire offensive strategy around one catcher. Baseball doesn't work that way. So what's the solution? Bloom and his front office brain trust have identified the need, but now comes the hard part, finding the right players at the right price. And this is where things get really interesting, because the Cardinals aren't exactly opening up the checkbook like they're the Dodgers or Yankees. This is a team that's actively selling off pieces, not collecting them like Pokemon cards. The budget is tight, the expectations are managed, and the fan base is somewhere between skeptical and downright cynical. Enter the bargain bin superstars, the platoon specialists, the guys who might not make the all-star team but could be the perfect puzzle pieces for a team trying to find its identity. MLB Trade Rumors, which isn't just some random blog but actually features respected writers like John Denton who know their stuff, has identified some realistic targets. And let me tell you, after diving into the numbers and doing my homework, a couple of these names jumped off the page like they were written in neon lights. First up, we've got Austin Hays, and Cardinals fans might recognize this name because he was terrorizing the National League Central just last season wearing a Cincinnati Reds uniform. Before that, Hays spent the bulk of his career in Baltimore, establishing himself as exactly what the Cardinals need, a right-handed bat who feasts on left-handed pitching like it's Thanksgiving dinner. The Reds, who've been making smart moves that nearly got them to the playoffs, traded for Hays specifically for this purpose. They understood the assignment. Last year, Hays put up decent, if unspectacular, overall numbers. 15 home runs, batting .266 with a .315 on-base percentage and a .453 slugging percentage. Nothing that's going to win MVP votes or even get him serious all-star consideration. But here's where the magic happens, where the numbers transform from ordinary to extraordinary. Against left-handed pitching, Austin Hays posted a .549 slugging percentage and a .949 OPS. That's not good. That's elite. That's exactly what the Cardinals need. Now, Hays is heading into his age 30 season, so we're not talking about some young buck with unlimited upside, but we're also not breaking the bank here. Fangraphs projects him to sign a one-year deal worth around $7 million. $7 million. The Cardinals have that kind of money sitting in the couch cushions at Busch Stadium. They could find that in the budget without even breaking a sweat. His career high in home runs is 22, which he hit back in 2021 when he was playing every single day. The beauty of bringing him to St. Louis is that he wouldn't have to carry that burden. He'd be a platoon player, a specialist, a weapon you deploy in specific situations. Think about it like this. Remember when the Cardinals brought back Albert Pujols for those final seasons? Remember how he'd come off the bench and absolutely punish left-handed pitching? With the three-batter minimum rule in effect, teams couldn't just yank their lefty reliever after Pujols came to the plate. They were stuck, trapped, forced to watch the machine do what he does best. Austin Hays could be that guy, that nightmare matchup that opposing managers dread seeing walk to the plate in the 7th or 8th inning of a close game. But wait, there's more. The Cardinals have another potential target who profiles similarly but might actually be even better, and his name is Miguel Andujar. If that name sounds familiar, it's because Andujar burst onto the scene with the New York Yankees back in 2018, crushing 27 home runs and looking like a future star. Then injuries happened, as they so often do in baseball, and his career took some detours through Pittsburgh, Oakland, and most recently Cincinnati. The Reds again, folks. Cincinnati clearly understood the value of finding these platoon specialists, these guys who might not play every day, but can change the complexion of a game when deployed correctly. They're like chess pieces that only move in certain directions, but when you need them to move in that direction, they're unstoppable. Andujar is projected to sign a one-year deal worth around $5 million, making him even more affordable than Hays. He's entering his age 31 season, so again, we're not talking about long-term investments or building blocks for the next decade. But check out these numbers because they tell a compelling story. Last season, Andujar posted an 822 OPS overall, which is actually better than Hayes' total production. So there's an argument that Andujar might have more upside, more potential to contribute even beyond the platoon role. Remember that 2018 season when he hit 27 home runs? That was better than anything Austin Hayes has ever done. The talent is there, buried somewhere under the injury history and the journeyman stops. He only hit 10 home runs last year, but he was playing in very limited action, really just platooning and pinch hitting. When he faced left-handed pitching, Miguel Andujar hit .389 with a .409 on-base percentage and a .578 slugging percentage. Read those numbers again. .389 batting average against lefties. That's not a typo. That's not a misprint. That's the real deal. That's the kind of production that wins ball games, that changes seasons, that makes general managers look like geniuses. Now, I can already hear the skeptics out there, the critics typing furiously in the comments section. Why should the Cardinals bother bringing in guys like Hayes or Andujar on one-year deals when we're not even trying to compete next year? If we're in rebuilding mode, if we're selling off pieces and restocking the farm system, why waste money on 30-year-old platoon players who won't be part of the next great Cardinals team? It's a fair question, and I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here. I've said repeatedly that I expect the Cardinals to struggle next season. Unless something hits that nobody saw coming, unless some prospects explode onto the scene way ahead of schedule, this team is projected to be bad. Not mediocre, not disappointing, but genuinely bad. So why bother adding competent pieces at all? Here's why, and this is crucial for understanding how successful rebuilds actually work. You need to create a baseline of competence to evaluate your young players properly. If the entire roster is hot garbage from top to bottom, you can't tell what's working and what isn't. You can't evaluate whether J.J. Weatherholt can hit in the majors if he's batting behind a lineup of automatic outs. You can't assess whether your young pitchers have real stuff if they're constantly pitching from behind because the offense can't score. Imagine this scenario. Weatherholt gets called up and he's raking, hitting .300 with gap power, and showing the advanced approach everyone's been raving about. Great. But if there's nobody to back him up in the lineup, if there's no protection, pitchers will just pitch around him. You won't get accurate data on what he can really do. You need competent major league players around your prospects so they can develop properly, so they can see how real big leaguers prepare and perform. Plus, and this is equally important, adding guys like Hayes or Andujar on short-term deals keeps your options open. Ideally, in 2 or 3 years when the Cardinals are hopefully contending again, these guys are bench players, veteran role guys who know their job. You're not trying to rely on them as everyday starters. But in the meantime, you're playing Moneyball, you're platooning, you're finding edges wherever you can. You're building a culture of winning, even when the overall talent level isn't championship caliber yet. And let's not forget about the fans, the people who actually buy tickets and jerseys and hot dogs at Busch Stadium. They deserve to see a competent baseball team, even in a rebuilding year. They deserve to have fun, to see some wins, to believe that there's a plan in place. Adding talent, even role player talent, signals that the front office cares about putting a watchable product on the field. It matters. But here's where this story takes a truly wild turn, where the speculation reaches fever pitch and the baseball world collectively loses its mind. There's a name floating around on MLB Twitter, a free agent who's still unsigned despite being one of the best available players on the market. That name? Bo Bichette. Yes, that Bo Bichette, the Toronto Blue Jays shortstop who's been an all-star, who's hit 29 home runs in a season, who has a career slash line of .294, .337, .469, the same Bo Bichette who's projected to sign a 5-year deal worth somewhere between $130 and $150 million, according to ESPN's projections. And according to some corners of baseball Twitter and speculation from outlets like Viva El Birdos, which is an excellent Cardinals blog where you can get your daily dose of St. Louis baseball analysis, the Cardinals should at least consider making a run at him. Now, before you completely dismiss this as clickbait nonsense, as media members just trying to generate engagement and stir up controversy, hear me out. There's actually a logical case to be made here, even if it's ultimately unlikely to happen. Let's walk through the scenario because it's fun to dream even if reality is going to come crashing down like a Wainwright curveball. Bichette has said he's open to moving positions, specifically to second base. This is huge because the Cardinals already have their shortstop of the future locked down. Mason Wynn, the Gold Glove winner, the defensive wizard who might one day win a Platinum Glove because his glove work is that spectacular. Defense is his number one tool, and he's not moving from shortstop anytime soon. So if you're going to bring in Bichette, second base is where he'd have to play. Now close your eyes and picture this. It's opening day at Busch Stadium. The sun is shining, the crowd is buzzing with anticipation, and you look at the infield. At first base, Alec Burleson, a solid hitter who could push for all-star consideration if everything breaks right. At second base, Bo Bichette, the new face of the franchise, the guy the front office went out and aggressively pursued to signal they're serious about winning. At shortstop, Mason Wynn, turning double plays with his new double play partner, creating what could be one of the best defensive combinations in baseball. And at third base, just the top 5 prospect in all of baseball, J.J. Weatherholt, ready to announce his arrival to the major leagues. That's not just a good infield. That's one of the best infields in baseball if everyone performs up to their potential. That's an infield that would make Cardinals fans forget about the dark days of the rebuild. That's an infield that would sell tickets and jerseys and make Busch Stadium rock again. Yeah, the outfield would still be a mess, but let's not focus on that. Keep your eyes on the dirt, on the guys who'd be turning two and making plays and driving in runs. Bichette is projected to be a 4-win player next season, according to Fangraphs. Do you know the last time the Cardinals had a 4-win player? 2022, when they had Arenado, Goldschmidt, and Edman all hit that mark. And you know what? They were pretty darn good that year. Having elite players matters. Having guys who can carry your team for stretches matters. Bichette is a career .294 hitter with legitimate power, a career high of 29 home runs and 102 RBIs. He's the real deal. So why won't it happen? Because let's be honest, we all know it won't happen. The Cardinals would have to fork over more than $30 million per year for 5 years. That's the kind of money that handcuffs an organization, that eliminates flexibility, that makes every other decision more difficult. If the Cardinals are going to spend big, if they're going to commit that kind of money to a free agent, that player has to be the best player on the team, the cornerstone of the entire rebuild. And here's the thing, as good as Bichette is, he doesn't solve the Cardinals' biggest problem. The lineup isn't what's going to hold this team back most dramatically next season. Sure, they need more offense, more power, more right-handed bats. But there's hope for the lineup with all the young position player talent in the system. The real issue, the elephant in the room, is the pitching. The rotation is questionable at best. The bullpen has been unreliable, and Bichette doesn't throw a single pitch. Maybe in a couple of years, the pitching figures itself out. Maybe some prospects develop ahead of schedule. Maybe the Cardinals make some trades that bring in arms. But committing $150 million to a position player right now, when you're not competing for a championship, when you're trying to maintain flexibility for exactly these kinds of situations, doesn't make strategic sense. What happens if Bichette gets hurt? What happens if he struggles transitioning to second base and to a new organization for the first time in his career? What happens if by year 3 of the deal he's on the wrong side of 30 and declining? You've hamstrung your entire operation. You've eliminated your ability to pivot, to adjust, to make the moves you need to make when the window actually opens. And here's the kicker. What if next offseason there's a true ace on the market? What if the Cardinals need to send $150 million to a frontline starter who can anchor the rotation and give the team a legitimate chance to compete? If you've already committed that money to Bichette, that option is off the table. You've painted yourself into a corner. The front office needs to maintain financial flexibility because the path back to contention isn't clear yet. It's still being written, still being figured out. So while it would be exciting to see Bo Bichette in a Cardinals uniform, while it would generate buzz and excitement and probably sell a bunch of tickets, it's almost certainly not going to happen. The Cardinals are playing a different game right now, a longer game, a more patient game. They're building something brick by brick, prospect by prospect, strategic addition by strategic addition. That's why the Austin Hayes and Miguel Andujar types make so much more sense. They're affordable. They're short-term. They address a specific need without compromising the bigger picture. They're the kinds of moves that smart, analytically driven front offices make when they're in the Cardinals' position. It's not sexy. It's not going to dominate headlines or make SportsCenter, but it's the right way to build. Chaim Bloom didn't come to St. Louis to make splash signings that look good in the moment, but hamstring the organization long term. He came to build something sustainable, something that can compete year after year after year. That takes patience. That takes discipline. That takes making the unsexy moves that casual fans might not understand, but that put you in position to strike when the timing is right. The Cardinals are at a crossroads. They've traded away Contreras. They're shopping Arenado. They're clearly in transition. But that doesn't mean they should just punt on the entire season, field a AAA roster, and tell fans to come back in 2 years when things might be better. You need to maintain competitiveness. You need to give your young players a chance to develop in a real major league environment. You need to show your fan base that you're still trying to put a decent product on the field. That's where these right-handed power additions come in. That's where the Austin Hayes and Miguel Andujar types make all the difference. They won't make the Cardinals World Series contenders, but they'll make them watchable. They'll give fans something to root for. They'll create an environment where prospects can develop properly, and most importantly, they'll keep the Cardinals relevant and in the conversation while the bigger rebuild plays out behind the scenes. Bloom's strategy is actually pretty brilliant when you break it down. He's not overspending on big names that won't move the needle. He's not making desperate win-now moves that mortgage the future. But he's also not completely tearing it down to the studs and asking fans to endure multiple years of unwatchable baseball. He's threading the needle, finding the middle ground, making smart marginal improvements that keep the ship afloat while the cavalry develops in the minor leagues. The Cardinals still have Nolan Gorman, who can hit for power even if he's a lefty. They still have Lars Nootbaar if he remains on the roster. They still have Victor Scott with his speed and defensive ability. They've got Ivan Herrera crushing left-handed pitching. They've got Mason Wynn anchoring the defense. They've got prospects like Weatherholt and Chase Davis knocking on the door. The pieces are there. They just need to be supplemented correctly. And that's exactly what Bloom is trying to do by targeting right-handed power for the outfield. It's not about making a huge statement. It's about addressing a specific need in a cost-effective way that doesn't compromise future flexibility. It's about being smart, being patient, and building something that can last. The Cardinals might not be championship contenders in 2026, but if Bloom executes his plan correctly, they'll be positioned to contend for years once all the pieces finally come together. So while we might not see Bo Bichette in a Cardinals uniform, while we might not see any blockbuster signings that make headlines and break the internet, don't sleep on what Chaim Bloom is building in St. Louis. The moves might be smaller, the names might not be as recognizable, but the strategy is sound. Add right-handed power, address the platoon disadvantage, give the young players room to grow, maintain flexibility for when the real window opens. The Cardinals are playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. They're thinking 3 moves ahead, and while it might not generate the same excitement as signing a superstar to a mega contract, it's the right way to build a sustainable winner. Christmas might be over for most of America, but for Cardinals fans, the real gifts are still being wrapped. Bloom is working behind the scenes, making calls, evaluating players, putting together a plan that might not pay dividends immediately, but will position this organization for long-term success. So buckle up, Cardinals Nation. The offseason is far from over. The wheeling and dealing continues. And while you might not see your team make the splashy moves that grab headlines, rest assured that smart baseball minds are working hard to build something special in St. Louis. The Cardinals might struggle next year, but they're building towards something bigger, something better, something that will make all this patience worthwhile.
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.